It was summer on the island of Sodor, and all the engines were all busy. But this year, all of the island was more busy than usual. Hundreds of more holidaymakers came to the island. All the lines were suffering from the huge packs of people and the heat, but Thomas's line was suffering the most. Ever since Daisy had left to work on the Hardwick line, there have been fewer trains. But this had been a problem until now. Thomas was arriving into Farquhar annoyed to see a lot more passengers on the platform, but so were his coaches. More passengers? But our carriages are too full to take any more. I must admit, even if I do love holidaymakers come down to my line, it is a bit exhausting having to take this many. If Daisy hadn't left to the Hardwick line, we wouldn't be suffering twice as bad as we are. If only we can leave them behind for the next train to arrive. Unfortunately, Thomas, the next train doesn't arrive for another hour, and we can't just leave our passengers stranded waiting for the next train to arrive. And besides, the Fat Controller is relying on us to take our passengers to their desired destinations right on time. Yeah, I know. I just wish there could be another engine to help. And fortunately, that is exactly what happened the next morning. As Thomas and the others were getting ready for the day's work, an unfamiliar whistle sounded the yards. Huh? I haven't heard that whistle before. Either have I. But I have. It can't be. It can't. And from a small distance, a small red saddled tank engine rolled into the yards. George? Is that really you? I thought you had been scrapped. I thought so too, but no, a very kind gentleman by the name of Darren Locke brought me. Anyway, how are you, old pal? It's been a long time. Last time I saw you was back in that old engine shed. I'm fine, thanks. Happier to see you here. So why are you here? Why, to help, of course. Your controllers borrowed me from my private owner to help out on your line. Thank God as well. I was getting rather tired of being locked away in the old shed. Ah, so you're already getting to know each other, are we? Ah, sir, didn't hear you arrive. Indeed, I seem to have that effect on people, including trains as of late, but I'm sure you've all introduced yourselves. Oh, blast, we forgot. I'm Thomas. I'm Toby. And I'm Percy, but you knew that already. Well, now you've all introduced yourselves, George has come to our branch line to help with the large amounts of holidaymakers we've been getting this year. He'll be helping with both Thomas and Toby on passenger trains, but also occasionally helping out in yards when need be. Now, I need one of you to show George around, and show him what to do, such as shunting trucks and coaches. Well, since Percy already knows George, I thought that job should go to him. Oh, sir, thank you. Anyway, I must be off now. Got a train to catch. And the Fat Controller drove away, and as he left, Percy's firebox had finally made plenty of steam and was ready to go. Ready to go? Whenever you are. Percy and George had a great day, from Percy showing Timoth to Farquhar, shunting trucks and coaches in the yard, introducing George to some friends on the line, and catching up on old times. How long were you in that shed for? Around about 62 years. Yes, it may seem cruel, but my owners still felt sympathy for me and wished to use me, but since they didn't actually have a line themselves, they didn't actually have anything for me to do. But they did bring me out to attend railway shows and work on other hours every now and again. I've been to a railway show before on the mainland. Engines came together from all around the world. Some of the Sodor engines were taken there to attend some of the contests. I was going to participate in the shunting competition due to Thomas having an accident, but due to Gordon being impatient for a very important part when he was streamlined for a race, Thomas, partially repaired, had to come and deliver it to him, but unfortunately Gordon didn't listen to Thomas and basically fell apart. So thankfully for me, Thomas did the shunting competition instead of me.
This Gordon sounds pretty arrogant, if I am honest. When do I get to meet the chap and what is he like?
Well, I'm sure you meet him soon, and you'll tell when you do. But basically, between you and me, he's a big blue galloping sausage. And the two engines couldn't help but burst out laughing.
Oh, Percy, I can see your cheekiness hasn't left you after all these years.
That night, Percy and George returned to the sheds. Thomas and Toby were already there.
So how was your first day on the line, George? Oh, it was marvellous. You have a lovely line here, more than I usually get nowadays.
Thomas was about to boast on how great his Branchline is when the Fat Controller arrived.
I heard, George, you had a really good day today. Tomorrow you will be pulling your first train on the line. Coaches, sir? Well, that was the job you were brought in for, but I want to see how you do with trucks first before pulling any other form of rolling stock. So tomorrow I want you to pick up a train of stones and take them to the station. Duck or Oliver should be there to pick them up for a new construction on their branch line. Oh, okay. Anything wrong, George? No, nothing's wrong, sir. Good. Well, I'll see you all in the morning.
And the Fat Controller walked into the darkness. What's wrong, George?
Percy, I must confess, even though I had been shunting them today, and I'd been doing it mostly all my life, before I was put into that engine shed, I have never actually pulled a train of them.
But, was an engine of your class built for pulling trucks?
Yes, they were, Percy, but the line I was originally on never had the use for me to pull a train of trucks. I've then shunted them. Other lines I've been on, I've just pulled long passenger trains.
Well, I'm sure you would do just fine. Yes, the trucks may be troublesome, but I'm sure an engine like you will handle them just fine.
Thanks, Thomas.
But deep down, George knew this was going to be a recipe for disaster. George's driving fireman arrived early that morning. The other engines were still asleep. George wanted to get advice on how to handle trucks when pulling the train. There's no time for that now, George. We've got a train to get. Besides, I'm sure you do just fine. As George left the sheds, he couldn't help but feel even more nervous. When George finally arrived at the quarry, he was more nervous as ever when he saw the long line of trucks. Mavis was there. She had just finished shunting the train. Hello, George. I've shunted your train onto the side and over there.
Thank you, madam.
He coupled to the long line of trucks, but unfortunately for him, he was so worried he forgot how to take care of trucks and he banged into them by mistake. The trucks screamed and wailed.
Whoops! Sorry!
Exclaimed George, his crew not thinking anything about it, waiting for the couplings to be fastened, and George was ready to go. As the train started, George gulped. He knew something was going to go wrong, and unfortunately, he was right. The journey started out fine. Everything was going according to plan.
The fat red bastard bumped us, but what shall we do? Oh, I have an idea.
And the truck told the others his plan. They all laughed and sniggered at this. George and his crew didn't hear this, and were heading for trouble. Back at Timoth, Percy with a group of workmen were fixing a broken set of points that led to the turntable. Well, they'd been broken for some time. In the distance, Percy heard George's whistle. Ah, here he comes! Signalman, change points! The signalman was about to, when all of a sudden George's truck started pushing him.
On! Faster, faster!
No! No! No!
Wailed George, and before he realised it, the signalman had been too late to change the points for George to go onto the other line. George raced through the points and crashed into the turntable well, just when Oliver pulled into Tidmouth. Not again! The blasted trucks did this to me also years ago.
George! Are you alright? No, I'm not. Send help!
And Percy did, as fast as he could. It was dark when they finally lifted George back onto the rails. The Fat Controller came up to him. Now George, I know the accident wasn't your fault, but from what the other engines have said, why didn't you tell me you had never pulled a train of trucks before?
Because I've never said no to a job before, sir, and I didn't want to disappoint you. I was also afraid you would send me back to my shed on the mainland.
The Fat Controller was surprised.
Well, you'll be sent straight to the steamworks. You should be mended by the end of this week. Yes, sir,
said George. He was worried the Fat Controller would send him away. And in a week later, George came back, and all the engines were excited to see him. Welcome back, George. It's nice to have you back with us.
Yes, indeed it is, Percy, but I don't think I'd be here any longer.
Why?
Because the Fat Controller will probably send me back to my owner after my accident, and I'll be stuck in that old shed again.
I'm sure he won't do that yet. It wasn't your fault.
Indeed it wasn't, said the Fat Controller, who was smiling. Even though it wouldn't have happened if you had told me something was up, George, I still understand why you didn't. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. So when am I leaving? Leaving? Laughed the Fat Controller. You mean I'm going to be here all summer? Longer than that, actually. You see, I've been talking to your previous owner, and we have come to a decision. Sir, you don't mean... Yes, I do mean. You, George, are now a permanent resident to the North Western Rail. But before he could finish, all the engines whistled with cheer and celebration. George was here to stay forever.